Okay, everyone, this is Sheets, and I'm going to be going over the DraftKings slate for tonight. Bobby is returning from the baby grand wedding, which, judging from his Instagram feed, was a lot of fun. And it certainly was a lot more fun than my DFS slate last night. Um, I tried to go in for the 150 lineups, and it was kind of a mess. I missed some news. I didn't pivot in time. Just overall, just terrible execution. So better to own up to it for my own sake than make any excuses. There were definitely some plays I just would never have had. I really don't think I would have had any Bradley Beal without Giannis. So the way it worked out last night, they went to overtime and Beal scored 1,000,000 points and Giannis fouled out with 40. So I was never going to get there with Beal without Giannis, or Giannis without Beal for that matter. So it wasn't going to happen for me, but yet I still made some mistakes along the way. Not seeing Westbrook was out for openers. Again, it was just one of those life things where I was doing other things and didn't feel I needed to pay as much attention as I need to pay attention to. So hopefully you guys did better with our information from yesterday than I did in executing it for my own self. But I would honestly rather that happen, because I'd rather all of you win and me lose than me win and all of you lose, I think. Anyway, so today let's go on with DraftKings. And what we're going to do with DraftKings is the way I kind of like to do it, which is I want to start from the last game and come backwards. Because, as I mentioned before, I do think there's a certain advantage to playing in GPPs, especially on DraftKings. In some degree, FanDuel also, but DraftKings to play these later games if you can. Just because, number one, it gives you flexibility to make changes if you're not an idiot like me and forget to pay attention. And also, I do think that these games tend to go under-owned a little bit. So I do want to start from there. And I guess the last reason is most content providers just kind of blast through these because they're on some time limit, and they never really get to analyze these last games as much as they should. So what's interesting is that this first game I want to review, the last game on the slate, is a really important one from a news perspective, because Golden State is listing, like right now, Draymond and Marquise Chris as being questionable, and whether they play or not is really going to drive a couple of plays here. All right, so let's go over this for a second. So first of all, we'll get to Sacramento in a second, which is pretty straightforward. But Golden State, like presuming that both these guys are out, right? Draymond and Chris, then Eric Pascal becomes an extremely strong play, right? I would say extremely. I mean, it's certainly not as strong as it is on FanDuel, but it's still a strong enough play if he's going to get like 32 minutes or so. But if those guys do play, then he's pretty much out of play. So you got to really pay attention to that. Andrew Wiggins, for example, is going to be an okay play if those guys are out. But with Draymond in taking usage away, Wiggins might not be playable at all. So these are things you really have to look for, and you have to continue to look for throughout the course of the slate, because this being a late game, it's possible that you don't get the news until later. Another guy to kind of throw on your list is this Juan Toscano-Anderson guy. I mean, he's been killing it the last couple of games with these guys out. So for me, if these guys were ruled out again, and if I can get another 25, 26 minutes out of this dude at 4,000, I'd probably try it again. So again, you really have to watch the news on this game to make sure that Chris and or Green are either out or not out, or what the hell's going on. Now, the Sacramento side is really, really easy. So De'Aaron Fox rates to be an extremely strong play. He's probably going to get some ownership. Is he going to be that highly owned? Again, it's just a matter of degree, but even if he was, 20% owned, I think that he'd be a very strong play. I think he's, is priced as he's not priced correctly, so to speak. And again, correctly is kind of a term of art here. I mean, I think that most median projections are going to put him at about between 5 and 6x, which is on the high side in general for a median projection. So he's going to rate to be a very, very strong player. The other guy on Sacramento, he definitely carries some risk, but as it stands now, looks to be really, really solid, is Harry Giles. So Harry Giles just not all of a sudden, it just seems as though they finally decided that they're going to let this guy play. I mean, I honestly didn't think that. I mean, I thought that he was just physically incapable of playing minutes. I thought his knees were hurting or whatever it was. And they run him out for 25 and 32 minutes in these games. And I mean, if he could physically make it 32 minutes, that's a really, really big deal. Now, I'm not going to project him for 32 minutes, but the fact that he has that as his minutes upside nowadays is extremely strong. Okay. So even if I give him a baseline of 24 minutes or something like that, I still think that he's going to be a really, really strong play at this price. The one thing that I would caution is Alex Len is active again. So I don't know. Nobody really knows what Walton's going to do as the coach, but I mean, it certainly is possible if Giles is struggling and Len is having a good game that they let Len get minutes, and that could really, that could reduce Giles's minutes, to an amount where you're not going to like him at 4,400. But I think with Giles, I think he's active enough when he's in the game that even if they ding him to like 16 minutes or so, he still might not be the worst. I mean, obviously you can't really play him if you think he's getting 16 minutes, but if you even give 16 to 20 minutes as his downside, I think that he still works out to be a very strong play. So I do like Giles and Fox from the Sacramento side in this game. And from the Golden State side, again, it really depends on the injury news. I would love to play Pascal, maybe not. I'm trying to think about this. I guess if I'm going to play both Fox and Giles, it would be nice to get a run back from Golden State. These guys are so much better on FanDuel, though. That doesn't mean they're bad plays on DraftKings either. So I still haven't figured out what I want to do on DraftKings with these Golden State guys. I do know that these guys do become in play if and when other guys get ruled out. So just keep an eye on that. All right, a kind of an easier game to analyze is this Boston-Portland game. So let's go to this one. So there's some very strong plays just kind of across the board here. So let's just go over this. So, oh wait, we're not there yet. Sorry, we're gonna go New Orleans, LA. Now you know what? Let's jump around. Let's do Boston-Portland. So on the Boston side, basically all 5 starters rate to be decent. Okay, so we're talking about, well, from the bottom up, Tice looks to be fine, but then it's really about these guards and wings like Tatum and Hayward and Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart. I think all those guys rate to be pretty decent plays here. So the problem is, how many of them do you want to play? Okay. I don't think that they're cheap enough where you could play like 4 of them. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you're able to. But I think that you could play 2 of them together. And I think in some worlds you might be able to play 3. But let's start with 2. So who would be my favorite 2? I mean, I guess a lot of it depends on ownership also. But I guess I would say that Jaylen Brown might be my favorite. And then is kind of a lower owned guy in deference to Bobby is maybe Marcus Smart. Maybe he'd be my second favorite of the 2. But all these guys are fine. I mean, Tatum's fine, Hayward's fine, Tice is fine. But I guess these 2 would be kind of my favorite. I guess the only thing is I'm eyeballing this that makes this difficult is the fact that it takes a guard position away. I really want to play De'Aaron Fox, but you don't have to play De'Aaron Fox if you don't want to. Not if you're playing a whole bunch of lineups. But let's just start with this, Smart and Brown. And on the Portland side, now, again, this is going to seem crazy, but at 9K, CJ McCollum still looks to be a good play. And I know what you're going to say, you know, like his previous games were against worse teams, that he was previously 7,000 or 8,000 or whatever. But that doesn't mean that he's a bad play at 9K. You know, remember, these projection systems are pretty sharp, and the fact that they're playing the Celtics, which is supposedly a bad matchup, and the fact that he's up to 9K, which is supposedly a high price, that's all been factored in, you know, and he still rates to be very, very strong play. So the only thing I could say is that if in fact he's going to be lower owned because of those, you know, other things like the bad matchup and the fact that 9K just seems like a lot for him, he's going to rate to be a tremendous tournament play if in fact his ownership comes down as a result. Now, we'll see, but that's my initial opinion is I would go right back to him at 9K. The other two guys from Portland are your normal guys, or Whiteside and Anthony, and they both look fine. Nothing special, nothing bad. So I would consider them secondary plays today. I thought Anthony was, extremely strong a couple of days ago. I think today it's not quite as good. So I would have no problem with something like this, you know, just playing a couple of Celtics with McCollum himself and just kind of roll with it that way. But I wouldn't go down to Ariza or Trent or Simons. I would stick with McCollum. And depending on how the center position plays out, you know, Whiteside certainly is going to have a good matchup. I mean, there's no way Tice or Cantor can guard him. So he's another one that, you know, seems like a lot, 9,200. I mean, it seems like only recently we were playing with 6,800. But be that as it may, with Lillard out, the guy smashes. So certainly someone to consider. Okay, moving back. Well, you know, before we forget about it, we're gonna forget. Yeah, we'll get back to New Orleans, LA. We're gonna test ourselves to remember to get back to that game. How about that? So here's the deal with Detroit and Denver. This game stinks. I was originally going to be into Derrick Rose a little bit, but just other plays just came out a little bit better. I'm not a real fan of this play today. There's blowout risk. There's all kinds of just badness involved with this whole game. The only thing I would say about this whole game is that, I mean, this is just straight, game log watching or whatever, but I'm pretty sure that Jokic scored, I think it was literally 1 billion fantasy points against Detroit when they played last. Yeah, there it is, 1 billion points. Okay, so now he did play 40 minutes. The chance that he plays 40 minutes today is not good. Let's put it that way. But if Detroit keeps it close, can he play 35? Sure. Do you want to play Christian Wood on Detroit to hope they keep it close, even though he projects really poorly? Oh, man, it's tough. I'm pretty sure I'm going to just end up not playing anybody from this game. And you know how it goes when you're sweating games like this. Like you look at the whether you're on your app, you're on the DK app, and it says, you know, first quarter, Jokic 23 fantasy points or something. And you're like, uh-oh. You know, I have a feeling that's going to end up happening. You end up having to root for the blowout because Detroit has nothing to stop him. But I think I'm going to take my chances and not play him. And I don't know. I think I'm not going to play that many lineups tonight, so I just don't think I'm going to get to him. But I'm definitely afraid. You know, like they say, what was the movie? Oh, The Fly. Right? Be afraid. Be very afraid. Anyway, that's really all I have from that game. All right, so let's go back before we forget. All right, so New Orleans against LA. It's a 240-point total, so you would think I'd like a lot of guys from this game. I just can't figure it out. I think everybody's priced from New Orleans really high. You got between Drew at 8K and Lonzo at 7K and Zion at 8K. I guess Brandon Ingram would be my favorite, but none of them are projected to be that great. So as gross as this is, am I really not going to play anybody from New Orleans at a 240-point total? even as a run back, I might have to. I got to figure it out. So let's figure out the LA side. The LA side's easy for me. I saw a lot of content today already where people are trying to figure out which of these Danny Greens and Avery Bradleys and KCPs. I'm just kind of not interested. For me, I'm gonna take a shot that it's either going to be LeBron or AD, and that one of them really is going to smash. I don't know which one it's going to be, but just this matchup is just too good. And you know, I heard actually a really, really good take on AD today, and I'm going to steal it for my own. And that is just basically that, you know, New Orleans just has no answer for him in the post. I mean, the first time these guys played, they just let Davis go off because of, he just playing against his former team the first time. But even the second time they played, they just pounded the ball down low to him. I mean, they just couldn't. I was about to say the Saints again. Hell just can't do anything about it. So I presume it's going to be more of the same. And I also, though, presume that the more people that realize this, I do think that Davis is going to garner to not curse too much, but sometimes it just fits, kind of a shit ton of ownership, especially relative to what people think he's going to get. I do think that he's going to end up being the higher owned guy between him and James. Maybe that's not a hot take, but I do think a lot of people are going to go to him. So I think it's for good reason. I think he is the better matchup than LeBron. However, again, at that type of ownership, I don't have to play him. How about that? Is that hedging enough? So let me review this game as saying it's not a game I want to stack. If I was going to play it, I really would make it an ownership thing. Like if honestly, I thought that Davis was going to be 30% and LeBron would be 10, I would say, screw the matchup. I'll just, screw everything I just said. I'll take LeBron. I just will. And if I had to run it back from someone from New Orleans, I don't know. I don't think anybody. I really don't. I just wouldn't be able to guess. And I think all these guys are too highly priced for me to just shuffle them in and out also. So I guess it's going to be just Davis if I play him at all, or LeBron and just nobody from New Orleans. Boy, I'm feeling like I'm giving you bad ideas here, but this is at least the truth. This is what I like. All right, fine. You push me, I'll take Ingram. But barely. All right. So I guess moving back, let's go back to, where were we? The ever exciting OKC Chicago game, where, as usual, the top projected guy on Oklahoma City is, I promise you're going to be Danilo Gallinari, because he always is. And he always is just so annoying to play. So he projects to be fine. And if you want to play him, if he's going to show up in all your optimizer builds, if you want to throw him in your cash games, if you want to just plug him into your last spot, fine. At least you have some math behind you. But the guy is just never going to win me a GPP. He just isn't. The way his results distribute is just not a GPP winning type of guy. I mean, let's look at this. Forget the 18, 24, 37, 32, 32, 37, 25, 33. You know what I mean? Like, nothing. I mean, you'd expect one 7X score in there somewhere, but you just don't get it. You get the nice, steady 5X type performance, which is fine to hold the lineup, I suppose. But I just don't want to play guys like this. All 35 median guys are not equal. You know what I mean? Like, some of them get a bunch of 30s and 40s, and I'd rather have them than the guy that's just going to get 35 every time. Another guy from the I was about to say, I don't know what I was about to say, but the Thunder I might want to play is maybe a cheap Nerlens Noel at 3,300. I think he has upside from his 16 to 18 minute projection. So at 3,300, I think he's also active enough against a very weak Chicago front court where he can do some damage. So maybe him at 3,300 might be a place to go, but it certainly doesn't look like a stackable type of game. I mean, like, don't really like Schroeder, Chris Paul, or anybody like that. And then you go to Chicago, and what is with Kobe White? Wow. That's all I've got to say is let's look at the Kobe White experience. since the All-Star break, whatever, still leading into it, minutes 35, 30, 34, 34, 40 points, 42 points, 50 points. Jeez. So, I mean, it seems as though the DraftKings salary makers have noticed this too and have moved him up to 5,600. And it's just the matchup and it just this slow enough pace that these guys can run at Oklahoma City that I don't imagine his projection to look that good, and it just doesn't. Does he have upside? Sure, but I don't think I'm going to get to him today. And I have to say that my usual guys, like even Levine, at 8,900 in this type of molasses game, I mean, they project to have 105 points. You know, it's no surprise that he's not going to project that well, and it's just not going to be for me tonight, man. It's just not. I know, you know, we like to say I always play Zach Levine, but, you know, until you don't. and the fact of the matter is that Kobe White, as sick as this is now going to be taking shots away from Zach Levine. That's just the bottom line. So until he's in a better matchup or, you know, just another situation where I'm going to take him, this Kobe White emergence is really going to be messing up my Zach Levine everyday experiment. All right, so that's the end of this game pretty much. I don't want to go to anybody else from either of these teams. Just 2 left? Wow. All right, so Milwaukee-Toronto is extremely interesting to me. So Milwaukee played last night, and they were going to get really cute, right? They're playing against Washington, and they knew they had the Toronto back-to-back. So their whole logic was they would love to take care of business in the Washington game, sit all their players in the fourth quarter, and be ready for Toronto. Unfortunately, Bradley Beal decided to not cooperate with this plan and went off, okay? Not to mention the fact that Giannis, which he can do from time to time, got into foul trouble and actually fouled out of the game with a full 4 minutes to go. So Beal went off and sent everybody into overtime, okay? And Milwaukee did end up winning, but that is not what they wanted coming into this game. They did not want an overtime win, an overtime game followed by a back-to-back in Toronto. But this is where they are at, and so this is where we are. So I really think that even though they ended up winning the game, Giannis is very pissed that he fouled out, that he didn't play his best, and he only played 25 minutes last night. He played the least amount of pretty much everybody on the team, and he is going to come out destroying people tonight. I think he is going to be an extremely strong play in a 230-point total with a 1-point spread. If you want to give me 36 minutes or 34 to 36 minutes out of Giannis with possible overtime upside, I don't care if they're playing the freaking, you know, the 89 Pistons or the 85 Chicago Bears. You know what I mean? I don't care what their matchup is. I mean, he is in a tremendous spot, and I think that he's a very extremely strong play. And what would be nice is if I could find Toronto guys to run back, and yeah, I got them. There's 3.5 guys that I could play. I think the least appealing from a projection standpoint is Kyle Lowry, but he's certainly playable. I think the 3 guys that I'm interested in is, number 1 is hashtag narrative, hashtag happy birthday Fred VanVleet. Now, I will tell you that, believe me, nobody gives a crap that it's his birthday when they're playing Milwaukee, all right? So he's not getting any extra minutes, any extra shots, any extra anything, okay? Yet, he's still a very strong play, and, you know, the fact that Milwaukee gives up threes, he could shoot threes, I like him a lot. And the other 2 guys are going to be the front court guys, are going to be Serge and/or Siakam. Okay, I don't think you can play them both. I think you're going to have salary issues if you want to play Giannis with Siakam, and let's say you want to play McCollum also. You know, nobody says you have to play McCollum. But I do think that this is a very, very strong game. I think that if you play two Toronto guys along with Giannis, I think you really could be in business. Okay. It's just everything you want in a game. It's a 200. It's a big total. It's a small spread, and you know where the production is coming from. At least from both sides, really. I mean, the fact is that it's even better for Giannis because if anybody's going to be affected by this back-to-back, it's going to be the Middletons and the Bledsoes and these other guys that might take the slightest hair of usage away from Giannis. So I think he is in a tremendous spot. I couldn't believe I wasn't expecting to like him this much leading into this review, but the more I think about it in the context of the rest of the slate, I mean, this could be the best play on the board, no? I mean, he's coming off of only 25 minutes, so he's got full, physical limitations for minutes. He's got a good game script for minutes because, they're playing the best team, one of the best teams in the league, so they're going to be a pick 'em. And they're only projecting for 32 minutes here, so he certainly has upside from those minutes projections. Dude, I mean, as they say, dude, this is awesome. So I think that Giannis does rate to be an extremely strong player, and I would certainly run it back with Toronto guys, whether it be Serge, Van Vleet, and yeah, I have no problem doing Lowry also, or instead of Van Vleet. But I do think this is a really, really strong game to target. And finally, Charlotte, Indiana. And I used to say this at the beginning of the year. It seemed like every single day Charlotte would play Indiana. So let's just kind of take a look at this. Well, what has happened to Devontae Graham? He has not been great. Terry Rozier has not been great. P.J. Washington has been really good, but against Indiana, he's not going to project all that well. So I think that this game is probably bordering on a cross-off for me. I did look at one set of ownership projections that had Miles Turner at like 25%. I can't quite understand why that is. I mean, he's projecting fine and everything, but nothing great. So there's another place that has Cody Zeller at like 25%. I don't get it. So I'm just going to presume those are aberrations. So I have no problem tossing this game. I mean, it's a Charlotte, Indiana plays good defense. Charlotte plays as slow as molasses. It's a 11-point spread. You don't even know if the game's going to stay close. To me, the game's a horror show. So I'm probably not going to get involved in this at all. Now, again, on FanDuel, as you talked about in the FanDuel review, I mean, Rozier was just so cheap. I just had to give him some consideration. And Sabonis, I think, on FanDuel was cheap enough where I could give him some consideration. But up here at 9K, I just don't think I'm going to get there. I guess one thing you could look for is whether Oladipo plays or not. Like if he doesn't play, then maybe you can get to those, Aaron Holidays again or Jeremy Lamb if he's active. I don't know if he's going to play either. But aside from that, I do think this is a game that you could just kind of, toss. That's the best I can describe it. So what do we got here? I mean, we got a couple of interesting games. We got this Portland-Boston game, right, which we talked about, where you could play McCollum and or Anthony and or Whiteside or whatever, run it back with all these Celtics. All these guys look fine. You have this Milwaukee-Toronto game, which you can attack pretty logically. And then if you want to get funny, you could attack this Sacramento-Golden State game if you get the right injury news. And there are very, very strong one-offs along the way, like that in the LA game, you could do a very strong runoff with Anthony Davis. So I think that I'm going to end up playing not that many lineups tonight because I think my player pool is going to be kind of short. I think there were some teams that I really didn't like too much from. So I think I'm going to get away with maybe 10 to 12 lineups tonight. I think I'm going to end up having to take a couple of value shots to make everything I want work. Like, so maybe that Nerlens Noel play might come into play, maybe something like that. Aside from him, though, I didn't really identify any really cheap guys, unless you want to consider Harry Giles cheap at 4,400. So it might make getting exactly what you want difficult, but I do think that I'm going to be able to get what I want tonight without playing that many lineups. So which is always a good thing because it's good to have a good core. I guess that's all I have for DraftKings. Bobby comes back in time to do a live thing, that'd be great. If not, no big deal. And I guess that's all I have.